If you're considering alpha picks, you need to see this review first. On the surface, its performance claims look like the holy grail to make you a much more profitable investor, but after months of thorough testing, I discovered a few powerful features that give you a real edge, and a couple of surprising shortcomings that could impact your results. But before we get into the details, let's be perfectly clear about one thing right now. Who is the AlphaPix service actually for? The truth is, AlphaPix is not for the active day trader. This service has one target user in mind, and that is the long-term buy and hold investor. It's for the person who wants to invest in stocks but doesn't have the time or desire to do deep, hours-long research themselves. Think about the busy professional who wants a guided portfolio, or the investor who gets overwhelmed by emotional decision-making and wants a data-driven system to follow automatically. They've built the entire AlphaPix service around this person, offering two clear, strong buy stock picks every month and managing the portfolio with sell alerts. This is specifically designed for the investor who wants to set it and, for the most part, forget it, while still aiming for growth that outpaces the S&P 500. But don't just take my word for it. When you look at the user experiences, the story becomes clearer. Take this one investor, for example. He said he'd tried multiple self-managed investing platforms over the years, but Seeking Alpha was by far the most productive. He even tested it by moving a good chunk of his portfolio into a separate account just to see how Alpha Picks by Seeking Alpha would perform on its own. And by the end of the year, he said that portfolio had climbed 46%, crushing the S&P 500. He was so impressed that he upgraded to the Pro service and said that the research was easy to follow, it was clear, and most importantly, it was profitable. So yeah, that kind of story says a lot, because yeah, let's be real, beating the market consistently is not easy, and just because someone might actively manage their own portfolio does not mean they'd be more profitable than someone who might just leave it and forget it. But that's exactly what AlphaPix claims to do, is allows you to set it and forget it. And in this case, it seems to have actually delivered. And that's the beauty of it. It's built for investors who don't want to hand their portfolio to an expensive money manager or to try to manage it themselves, but they still want expert-backed results and, a lot more money in their pocket at the end of the day. Now, if you compare that to platforms like Ticker, which is incredible for financial data and valuation tools and other things, I think the difference becomes really obvious. Ticker gives you the data and the information for yourself, but AlphaPix gives you just the two picks themselves, and it gives you the actionable ideas just to follow or not. Instead of sifting through endless metrics and finding all this information and comparing it and learning all of this extra math, AlphaPix just says, here's two strong buy stocks this month, and that's it. And here's why it matters, and here's the information about the stocks, but all you have to do is either buy them or don't. It's their recommendation. And that can be a huge relief for investors who want clarity over complexity. Just two stocks and all the information you could want about just those. All right, now that you know who the AlphaPix service is for, let's get into more of the specific features that make it so compelling, and if they actually hold up to the real world. The first thing that stands out is their proven long-term performance. Like, this is the big one, right? Does it actually beat the market? Does it actually make money for people? So, according to their own data, which I have verified, the AlphaPix portfolio has absolutely crushed the S&P 500 since its inception. We're talking a total return of over 136% compared to the S&P's 49% as of March 2025. That is a huge outperformance. And if that still sounds too good to be true, like, yeah, you're not alone. I thought the same thing. It sounds like way more than it could be, so I went digging a bit further. On Reddit, one user asked recently if their last email blast about being up 160% versus the S&P 500's 57% since 2022 were fudged, if that information was actually false. And you got some good responses. They were pretty telling. One user who had actually been a subscriber of AlphaPix for a year replied that his results were real. He highlighted that he started small and that he saw better returns than his index funds and ended up selling those funds to go heavier into AlphaPix recommendations. He also noted that not all of their recommendations were winners, but overall his returns were double the S&P 500. And then another user jumped in and said that he had also made way more than that, highlighting that his portfolio gains were more than double what the S&P returned. So that kind of feedback, that kind of community interaction and feedback about the program, I think says a lot, especially because a lot of reviews and especially a lot of Reddit threads are full of skeptics and full of contrarians. And for even more confirmation, stockanalysis.com recently highlighted that as of November 2025, AlphaPix's total cumulative return sits at 273% compared to the S&P 500's 80%. Now, of course, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but that kind of track record really gives you a good reason to pay attention and to look at these stocks that they're recommending. Now, how do they try to keep it going? So that brings it to the core of the service, and that's their stock selection, the core part of what they offer. So this isn't just a group of analysts picking their favorite stocks and throwing a couple out there. The Alpha Picks team uses Seeking Alpha's proprietary quant rating system to narrow it all the way down. So this system analyzes thousands of data points for each stock, looking at value, growth, profitability, momentum, earnings revisions, and a ton more. And it's a completely data-driven process designed to find stocks that are fundamentally strong and still undervalued. And then you get two of these strong buy stock picks every month. One arrives around the first trading day of the month and the other around the 15th. And then this slow, steady drip of ideas prevents you from getting overwhelmed, and it aligns perfectly with a long-term dollar cost averaging kind of approach where you can put a bit of money in the beginning of the month, then a bit in the middle, and you can do it a little bit over time and average it out. So more about this, I found this review from a user who's been with AlphaPix for over a year now. He said he's had a return of 56% in his account, which he calls phenomenal. He specifically praised their stock picking method, saying that it was outstanding by any measure, especially if you measure it by the results. He even said that it would likely go down in a bear market, but that he trusted the process for the long run. Now, think about this. A buy and hold strategy is useless if you never know when to sell and the stock just goes down. So this is where many services actually fall short, but AlphaPix has a system for this. They actively monitor every stock they recommend. So if a stock's rating drops to a sell, you instantly get an alert. Even if a stock is just like stuck at a hold for more than 180 days, it automatically becomes a sell and they tell you to get out of that stock quickly. So this is a crucial feature, and it was really useful for me during testing. It takes the emotion out of selling, which is often harder than buying because you need to know when to let go and to keep your profits instead of thinking that it'll always go up. Also, let's not forget the community and the support aspects of AlphaPix. The service includes exclusive webinars with the quant team, which directly with them is really great. It's great for understanding the reasoning behind the picks and for getting information and picking their minds. So I came across this Seeking Alpha Stock Picks review next, where a user mentioned that the monthly meetings were super useful. He also highlighted that AlphaPix was a great tool that helped with stock portfolios, and it was easy to use and to copy trades of other people, and he talked with a bunch of experts, so he learned a lot and was able to make a lot of money. So that's great. But at the end of the day, after all of these reviews, after all of these comments, after all of these features, and it sounds great, but no service is perfect, right? There are a few things that you should be aware of before you sign up for AlphaPix. So in my research, I came across this AlphaPix review from a user who had a significant problem. So he overall found the features and information useful, but he had a very tough time reaching customer service. The bigger issue overall was a refund delay that he had, which understandably frustrated him. And he had customer service that wasn't responding on time for him. So yeah, that sounds really frustrating. So it sounds a bit alarming, and I won't sugarcoat it. A customer service and billing experience that gets delayed, that is not up to standard, is frustrating and unacceptable. But in my deep dive into dozens and dozens of AlphaPix reviews, this type of severe complaint was really rare, and when I had an issue and I called the customer service, I didn't have any issue with them. So this is a standalone. I just needed to mention it. Usually, this kind of thing happens if there's a billing verification or a support ticket backlog, or they're busy, or something else. And also, like, thankfully, if you're using a credit card, you're protected either way. So if there's a major issue, you're supported. It's not a risk of losing your money. And either way, is it a deal breaker? For me, no, it's never happened to me. And while it happened to someone else, and it is something to mention, it's not a huge deal. While any customer service hiccup is a black mark, the core product, the stock picking and portfolio management, is what you're really paying for. If you ever have an issue and need to call them, then that might come up, but I didn't even see that happening anyway. And on the front of portfolio management, the data and most user experiences really suggest that it is delivering solid value. And when it comes to cost, AlphaPix is positioned as a premium service. You're paying for expert curation and a system with a proven track record, and meeting with experts and getting all of their info and getting 2 picks per month that has the opportunity for a ton of profit. And the good news is that they also run promotions, so it's not even the full amount. For the most current AlphaPix pricing, any active promotions and discount deals going on, make sure to check the link in the description of this video. We try to keep it updated so that you can get the best possible deal. So, what is the final verdict in this Alpha Picks review? Well, it's simple. If you're a long term investor looking for a more hands off, data driven approach for stock picking, and you're frustrated with your returns that just match the index or doing tons of research and not getting extra money out of that, then I think Alpha Picks is absolutely worth a closer look. Check the link in the description of this video to get started with their latest offer.